By the time Rosalie reached the training grounds, the morning drills were already in full swing. Steel clashed in steady rhythm, dust rose under the knight's boots, and commands echoed sharply across the field. Everything moved with precision and control, everything except her. She adjusted her grip on the water jug, trying not to wince as the weight pulled at her already sore arms. Just put it down and leave. Don't draw attention. That was all she needed to do.
Again.
Kael's voice cut through the noise without effort. Rosalie didn't look directly at him, but she felt it immediately, the shift in the atmosphere. Every knight straightened, every movement sharpened. He didn't need to raise his voice to be obeyed. She kept her head down and stepped closer to the edge of the field. Almost done. Then it happened. A sword slipped during a clash and flew loose from a knight's grip, spinning wildly through the air, straight toward her. Watch out. The warning came too late. Rosalie turned instinctively, and in that single glance, everything slowed. The angle, the speed, the distance. Her mind didn't panic. It calculated. Too close to step back. If I drop the jug, it'll be worse. Her fingers tightened. Not here. So her body moved before she could think further. She leaned back. A controlled, precise motion, her spine bending just enough, her balance perfectly held as the blade cut through the air inches above her face. For a moment, the world went quiet. And then she realized. He saw that. Rosalie's eyes flicked forward. Kael was watching her. Not startled. Not confused. Focused. A chill ran down her spine. Fix it. Now. Instead of straightening, she forced her body to keep going. Further back. And further. Until she lost balance completely. Thud. She crashed onto the ground, the jug tipping over as water spilled across the dirt. The impact was loud enough to draw attention, and a few knights paused mid-training. Rosalie sat up immediately, wincing as if the fall had been completely accidental. Ow! She tugged at her skirt, pretending it had twisted awkwardly around her legs. Why does this keep happening to me? She shot an annoyed look at the empty air beside her. Seriously, if there's a ghost here, can you stop pulling my clothes? A couple of knights looked away, clearly trying not to laugh. One of them coughed into his fist. Rosalie pushed herself up clumsily, brushing dust from her apron, as if nothing about that fall had been strange. Sorry, I'll clean this up right away. She kept her movements uneven on purpose, slightly off balance, slightly too slow, anything to erase what had just happened. But the silence behind her didn't shift. Kael hadn't moved.
That wasn't an accident.
His voice was low, almost drowned out by the resumed clashing of swords, but it was clear enough. Rosalie's grip tightened slightly on the empty jug. Don't react. Kael's gaze remained fixed on her, sharp and unyielding.
No one avoids a blade like that by chance.
A brief pause.
And no one falls that perfectly by mistake.
Rosalie forced herself to bow her head. I'm just clumsy, Your Highness. The excuse sounded weak even to her own ears. For a moment, Kael said nothing. Then, quietly,
Are you?
Rosalie didn't answer. She turned, walking away with careful, uneven steps, making sure not to look back. Not too fast. Behind her, Kael's eyes narrowed slightly. The image replayed once in his mind. The angle, the timing, the control. That wasn't fear. That was training. His expression hardened just a fraction.
She's hiding something.
The training continued. The noise returned. The rhythm resumed. But Kael's attention had already shifted. Not to the knights. To the girl who was trying far too hard to look ordinary. The library felt wrong the second Rosalie stepped inside. It wasn't just the dark. She was used to navigating the manor by touch. It was the stillness. The air felt thick and stagnant, like the room was holding its breath. She moved quietly between the tall shelves, keeping a hand on the wood to steady herself. Her body felt heavy, her head throbbing from another night without sleep, but she forced herself to stay sharp. High up near the rafters, a shadow flickered. It was subtle, a slight blurring of the candlelight that you'd miss if you weren't looking for it. A high-level parasite. It was circling slowly, patient and picky, looking for a host. Rosalie watched it, her jaw tight. If it hopped into someone in here, the whole place would become a slaughterhouse. She climbed. Her muscles burned as she pulled herself into the rafters, her hands shaking slightly against the beams. She was slower than usual, her movements stiff. She flattened herself against the wood right above the center aisle, waiting for the parasite to drift within reach. One quick strike. That's all she needed. Then the door creaked open. Rosalie froze. Footsteps tapped against the stone floor, calm, steady, and familiar. Kael. He walked to the main table and sat down, opening a thick book as if he'd planned this visit all day. Rosalie looked down and recognized the diagrams immediately, interlocking seal structures. He was digging into the same history she was. He was getting close. Below her, Kael turned a page. He looked relaxed, but Rosalie could see the tension in his neck. He was always on guard, even when he was alone. She tried to adjust her weight to ease a cramp in her leg, but her body was reaching its limit. A bead of sweat gathered at her temple. She felt it itch, then sting, then finally break free. It fell. A tiny damp circle bloomed on the page Kael was reading, right next to the ink. Kael stopped. He didn't move for a long second, then he slowly tilted his head back. Rosalie had already retreated, melting into the deeper shadows of the roof. She pressed her face against the wood, holding her breath until her lungs ached. Below, she heard the chair scrape against the floor. Kael stood up. He wasn't looking around the room anymore. He was staring straight at the ceiling. Not guessing, searching. The parasite didn't like the change in energy. It shied away, slipping into a vent and disappearing into the dark. Rosalie ignored it. Her entire world had narrowed down to the man standing a few feet below her. She shifted her arm just a fraction, and the rough wood caught the edge of her cloak. There was a tiny snag. A piece from her cloak tore. It drifted down, spinning slowly in the air before landing softly on the open book. Kael picked it up. He rubbed the fabric between his fingers, looking at it with a quiet, intense focus. He didn't say a word. He just closed the book, his eyes lingering on the rafters for one more beat before he turned and walked out. His pace hadn't changed, but the way he carried himself felt different. He wasn't wondering anymore. Only when the door clicked shut did Rosalie let out her breath. Her arms were shaking so hard she nearly slipped as she climbed down. She leaned against a shelf, her chest heaving. That was too close. She looked at her cloak, then at the door. Kael wasn't just going to look next time. He was going to come find her.